G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video, and we have a big one today, rightly so, because this combination is really quite difficult. It's a really interesting combination. I swear I say that all the time, but it is today. 40 minutes long this one is, so strap yourselves in for the ride. You're coming along with me on this absolute machine that we're driving at the moment, but we'll talk about what this is first. This is FIA Nations Cup round 20, so that means it's the stage 2 finale. So I saw this combination come up when they released, the schedule, and I was like, yes, I am doing this round. Tuning was open, by the way, so shout out to Mr. MCA on YouTube. I'll link him in the description below. I copied the tune from his video, his guide video he did for this round. Dead copied it. Literally value for value, digit for digit copy the tune. So thank you very much for that, even though I know you don't watch, but in case you did, let's say that. So the combination is the Gran Turismo F1500T-A. It's the car based on a 1980s Formula 1 car, and we're at Circuit de Sainte-Croix. So, of course, more correctly pronounced, Circuit de Sainte-Croix. This is the C variation, the longest of the three. It's over 10 kilometers long, 10.825 kilometers long to be exact. I've gone for the Ayrton Senna Marlboro livery on my car. Of course, do not condone or am trying to advertise smoking, but the Marlboro colours on an 80s Formula 1 car, extremely iconic. But we're going to start the qualifying session here. You see at the start of this lap here, I almost had some dirty air at the start of my lap, but then the guy decides that the pit wall is a very efficient strategy, and it is for braking but not for qualifying. But we'll come through turn 1, turning in just on the end of the grass on the right hand side, and coming into turn 2, braking in between the 100 and 150 meter boards into their second gear corner. This one, so really gentle on the power as it's got all this turbo that's spooling up on the exit there. Coming into turn 3 is a very sharp right hander. We're going to be braking just after the 150 meter board, heading into here. Second gear corner once again. I actually apex a little bit too early there, and you see I'm wide on the exit, but it's not to worry. Once again, gently on the power, just braking on the end of the sort of light patch in the shadows on the road. Third gear through there, gently on the power as you round down to turn 5, braking just when the green changes to sand on the left hand side, and then bring it in for turn 6. A little bit wide on the exit, but as long as you don't graze the wall, you can get away with it. Then coming into turn 7 now, we're going to be braking just before the 100 meter board, down into third gear, and then gently on the power, and we're going to be braking just on the end of the shadow into turn 8, immediately proceeding through turn 9, flat out in this high downforce machine. We're going to be braking just before the ambulance on the right hand side, and then we're going to get that nice smooth run down this hill here. Third gear, as you don't want all this wheel spin as you're heading down the hill. Take a smooth line through here, lift off as we go through turn 12, and then on the brakes for turn 13. A bit wide through there, and you see that bump halfway through just throws the car out wide, so you have to be narrow, because then you'll end up perfect on the exit after that bump. We actually get a poor run across the bridge, but not to worry. We're going to be braking just before the 100 meter board. Coming into turn 14, another bump on the halfway through the corner. We just grazed the wall thanks to that bump as well, so that's not good. Turn 15, lift off on the entry nice and gently down to the power again. You can easily understeer under that wall on the exit of turn 15 there, which is going to be extremely highly detrimental to your lap because of the straight that follows it. A 1.8 kilometer long straight, almost as long as the one at Tokyo Expressway. Coming into the hairpin, braking just on the 150 meter mark, and then nice and patient through here. Long apex there, if you kind of know what, trying to understand what I mean there. Then we're going to head through turn 17 and 18. It's all flat out through here. 19 is this right hander here, flat out once again, and then turn 20 is this kink here, flat out, and then turn 21, braking just before the ambulance on the right hand side once again, nice and gently through here. 22's flat out, and then heading into turn 23, we're going to be braking just on the 100 meter mark, and then turning quite late as well, because it's a nice downhill run as well. Final quarter, turn 24, braking just on the last of the white billboards up on the left hand side of the circuit. We're going to come across the line. Our lap is going to be a 2:45.5, which puts us on provisional pole position by 1.8 seconds. How good? How good? But we do, of course, have enough time to go out for one more lap, but the outlap this time is not going to be quite as composed as the last one, because we only have about 4 minutes to go, but actually we get around okay. So once again, no dirty air. Got a car way up in the distance, but the air should be settled over our car in order for us to not understeer everywhere, so we should be okay through this lap here. But we're just going to try and tidy up the lap. Braking points are the same. We're just going to try and tidy up the lap overall as well. So we're looking, all our split times are going to be up on a 2:45.5, which you can see there. We've actually got 4 thousandths purple, which means we are on track for pole position already. No, I'm kidding, a little bit early for that. We actually mess up the hairpin again, braking too early for that one, and you see we get a rather poor exit. But then through these corners here, pretty much all we're doing is trying to get on that power a little bit earlier. The car is wheel spinning everywhere. By the way, this car, you thought the Zonda was insane. Wait till you hear this. 986 horsepower, absolute beast. I tell you what, there is nothing. This is the most powerful car that I've ever been in control of in this game. Absolutely ridiculous. I say in control of. I have driven the Tomahawk X, not in control of that car. I can tell you that right now. But we'll just come back to the lap. So we'll talk about the tyre strategy shortly. But you see, coming through this downhill section, remember we got this right-hander, coming up onto the bridge incorrect on our previous qualifying lap. Much better that time. If you remember, we had to drop down to second gear to get the launch out of that corner on our 2:45.5 lap. You see, we're 6 tenths up already by virtue of getting that corner right. Let's see if we can get this left-hander correct as well. Remember, we bumped the wall on the exit there. We get a much better exit that time. So we're going to come down. We're going to make sure we get turn 15 right. Apex, no, a little bit too early and just slide into the wall, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. We've got another sector split time coming up. 3 tenths ahead. We're going to be losing time all the way down this straight. That is detrimental for my lap. Eventually, we come across the line with a slight improvement, about half a tenth, but we're still half a second off pole position, or provisional, well, just went down to third. We're in third position at the moment. We'll see the final grid. Fourth. Starting in fourth here, we've got 3 drivers ahead of it. Oh, well, obviously, yes. Starting in fourth, you're going to have 3 drivers ahead of you. But this is where strategy starts to come in. So I was in fourth position. So I decided you have to use all 3 tyres. I thought, I'm not right at the front. I'm going to go onto those medium tyres to start with. And we'll talk about reasoning behind that shortly. But yeah, of course, all 3 tyres in this car. You don't want to be wasting those soft tyres stuck behind people. But anyway, as always with the FIA combinations, let's enjoy the beautiful introduction. Absolutely beautiful and absolutely fitting for such a motorsport phenomenon we are experiencing here today. That's probably a bit dramatic. I do like the circuit though, which is kind of what attracted me to this combination. But here's the grid. Of course, we are in fourth position. You just see the Marlboro peeking over the tyres of the car just there. But there we are. We do have car number 11. So as long as we finish 11th or higher, we have kind of done our expectation. Another interesting element here, standing start. So I've gone for the second gear launch, traction control 2 and handbrake start. Lights go out, release that handbrake. You see we just lose out initially, but every other car has to do that awkward gear change between first and second. See, especially there, the car right next to us really lost time there. But overall it was a fine start. Not really gaining on other people and not really losing on other people either. A couple of people understeer into that wall, so the cars are all cold at this point, tyres are cold. We do have to be careful with the first few corners here, but I'm going to show you the whole race unedited here, so strap yourselves in. We're all going on for the ride. Coming into turn 3 behind Frithy here, and we're going to be on the inside, nice and gently on the power. We've got someone on the left hand side, so we can't use all the width of the track there. Red mist just slots in ahead. Something with these cars, that when you have a car ahead of you, the dirty air my goodness, it is awful. You turn the wheel and nothing happens because there's no air flowing over your car because the car ahead of you pushes it all out of the way. So we have to be extremely careful. Braking distance is going to be longer, you have to turn in earlier, you're going to have to wait to get on the power even longer. And then, of course, it all compounds. You lose lap time, you can lose positions. Dirty air, really a massive issue in these cars. No DRS, as there is in modern Formula 1. So it's just outright pace. Slipstream down that main straight has got to be good though, and we're going to have to keep an eye on that. But you see we've settled into position here, 5th place. We've lost position off the start, probably because we were on the outside for turn 2, as turn 1 isn't really an overtaking opportunity. But we see we just got someone looking up around the outside as we head down the straight, but he just loses out just a little bit as we climb into 5th gear there. And then this corner here, you're already understeering because it's uphill and sort of drops off to the outside of the corner. And then this corner here is absolutely terrible. Braking halfway through the corner, drop down to 180 kilometers an hour apex speed there, so we do have to be really careful. Penalty being served behind, so that's good. That's going to hold up the pack behind a little bit, and hopefully we can catch this gap back up to the leader. We've got SC04 Blitz behind me. I've also just got the slipstream of Red Mist up ahead, 1.4 seconds behind Red Mist, which I think is a lady, so we're going to refer to it as her because I've seen her in a lobby once, and her initial intro was fastest girl in Australia or something like that, so we're going to refer to Red Mist as a she. And then yeah, Blitz behind. This section here, absolutely notorious for dirty air. I haven't quite got it so bad because I'm about 1.4 seconds behind Red Mist. Blitz has it terribly. He was about 2/10 behind going into that section. And as we go through turn 23, Blitz is about half a second behind. So he's lost all that time. But now we've got the main straight turn 1 and then the straight between turns 2 and 3. So that's going to be good for Blitz as well. As long as we can remain in the slipstream of Blitz, of Red Mist, my apologies, Blitz is not going to be able to gain on me as quickly as he would like. Right, now strategy. Very interesting strategies in this one. You have to use all 3 tyres, but the soft tyres will only last about 3 to 4 laps. I go for 3 laps, so most people are going to be doing 3 pit stops, that means 4 stints. There's going to be a lot of pit stops, there's a lot of stints, and people are going to be out of phase with one another, but it comes together at the end. What I wanted to do was not waste my soft tyres at the start of the race with all that traffic on that opening lap. You see we set a 3:02.2, probably would have been quite a similar lap time if I was on hard tyres. So we don't want to be wasting those soft tyres stuck behind cars. We want to be in clear air using those soft tyres to their maximum capacity. But in saying that, I don't want to be on the hard tyres at the start because they're really cold at the start of the race. We don't want to be sliding about and losing positions. And of course at the start, if you make one mistake, you're going to be losing a load of positions because of how close the grid is at the start of the race. So I went for the medium tyres. I'm going to be doing 3 laps on mediums and then 2 3-lap stints on soft and 1 lap on hard tyres. That's my strategy here. Coming down the hill, Frithie has made an error on the exit of turn 10 and hitting the wall on the apex of turn 11, and he gets himself a 1.5 second barrier contact penalty. He's going to serve that. Get this, halfway down the massive 1.8 kilometre long straight, he's going to lose out massively, especially with 1.5 seconds. These cars, really efficient braking, or really good brake, so 1.5 seconds of that, you're going to be losing a lot of speed. But once again, still got dirty air through this corner here, so this is what I'm talking about. We don't want to be on the soft tyres because the dirty air stops us from carrying that extra speed through the corners. Someone has binned it. Ronnie, the pole sitter, has binned it on the exit of turn 15. There was a yellow flag, and then we just get a little bit of slipstream from Frithie as he serves his penalty. And then we've got Blitz coming around the outside. That's a slipstream move past me, heading into turn 16, braking on the 150 metre mark. Let's see, he actually a little bit too wide, but not to worry. He has got his 3rd position, but that means I have Blitz's slipstream through this fast-flowing SS section, so that's going to be really detrimental to me, as I'm going to have all that dirty air washing over the car. The tune we're using as well, it was done by, I think Mr. MCA got it off some website or something. but he introduced it in a video and I copied it. Max downforce setup. So the maximum amount of downforce this car can run. So that means dirty air is especially pronounced because the car's tune is so heavily reliant on downforce that when you don't have it, the drop off is absolutely insane. So that's why we're really careful with tyre choice. Coming on to the start of lap 3, this is going to be my last lap on the medium tyres, and we're going to be in the slipstream of Blitz for the first bit of the lap, but then it's going to turn into dirty air as we head through the last half of the lap. So hopefully we can kind of try and work our way to try and get past Blitz as we head through the lap here at Sainte-Croix, or Sainte-Croix. I always feel weird when I say Sainte-Croix because it sounds too proper. It's pronounced Sainte-Croix. Absolutely pronounced Sainte-Croix. Polyphony Digital, sue me. It is pronounced Sainte-Croix. But as we're coming through this lap here, the tyres are going to start to drop off. So this is where we can start to talk about the masses of power that this car has. It all comes at once about halfway through the rev range. So you change gear and then the rev bar depletes all the way. And then when it gets to about halfway up, all that power kicks in. It's turbo lag. Absolutely bucket load of turbo lag, and you see just on the exit there almost get a little bit out of shape, and that's what we've really got to be careful of in this car here, especially on worn tyres. So third gear on the exit, you're still spinning up your tyres as a 900, nearly 1,000 horsepower is trying to get put into the ground by those rear tyres, and then the little skinny front tyres causing all that understeer because they don't have enough grip. And as we head through the final corner onto the bridge, we're only about 2.2 seconds behind Blitz at the moment, so that means we're actually out of slipstream range and therefore I hope out of the range of dirty air, which is good, especially coming through this corner here as you can really understeer, and then coming through turn 15 as well, which is the final corner onto the straight. So as long as we can get this corner right, we should be pretty golden as we head down the straight. We actually get a fine run, actually, not too bad. The other component of the strategy is the fuel. You see I've flicked to the fuel map. The thing with this car, you can use your fuel maps in this car. So say you've got an N100 car with 50 horsepower and you whack it into lean mode 6, you're going to be losing the percentage of horsepower that you lose from going into a high fuel map is worth more in a slower car because you need every bit of that horsepower you can get. So what I'm saying is the difference between 50 and 35 horsepower is a lot bigger than the difference between 986 and 970 horsepower. So you see, I think it's for the majority of my second middle phase of the race, I'm actually in fuel map 2, saving all that fuel, and it doesn't really come to a detriment to me. If anything, it could help me, especially because the car wheel spins on the exits of corners. But you see when I come into the pits now, Red Mist was on soft tyres, which is going to be interesting. So Red Mist is now on medium tyres. I'm now on soft tyres. So I'm going to be quicker than Red Mist. And then GDT, I didn't quite see what tyres. I think he was on the medium tyres as well at the start of the race. I think that was correct. And Ronnie, the pole sitter, was on medium tyres to start with. So that was probably a bit of an error by Ronnie there, being the pole sitter. You want to be starting on your soft tyres if you're out in front, because you don't have any dirty air in front of you. You can try and break away from the pack. But at this stage here, I'm going to be one of the faster cars up the front here, and you see there we go, fuel map 2. I did not refuel in that particular pit stop there, so we're going to be doing that refueling a bit later, as we want the car to be as light as possible on these soft tyres. So there's no point, refueling your last couple of laps on your first pit stop, because you're just going to be carrying that extra weight from all that fuel. Well, not that much. That extra weight from the extra fuel you put in for the whole race, you might as well put it on your last pit stop, because you only have to carry around how much you need to get to the end, if that kind of makes sense. I hope that does. We don't want to be putting extra weight in the car unnecessarily when you can do it later when the car is lighter again. As we head through the middle section here, Iron Mask, we've raced him before. 3.6 seconds ahead. I don't know what tyres he's on, so this is where it gets kind of a little bit confusing in the mid part of the race, especially looking at my viewpoint here, because there's no real reason to be constantly fed the information on what tyre everyone's on, so we don't know what tyre everyone's on. The only reason we do know is when the little graphic pops up on the screen when they actually do go in for a pit stop, so we know Ronnie is on soft tyres now, and then Red Mist is on medium tyres, I think. yeah, I've completely forgotten. So that, yeah, you can see how confusing it is, but all I know now is we're on soft tyres, we've got no dirty air in front of us, we're going to be quick for this part of the race, and we just have to, especially for the first lap or two, just look after those rear tyres as well, because the car, as we've said, really spins up the rear tyres. Interesting thing to note here as well, the guy currently in first place, Blitz, I'm unsure as to whether he's gone in for a pit stop, because you see we're 10 seconds behind him, but we have pitted. So, it'll be interesting to see whether he goes in on this lap or not, and, especially, it will be interesting to see what tyres he was on, because, as we know on the, opening part of this race, Blitz is really putting the pressure on behind me. As we head through this Acer section now, we're catching up bucket loads of time towards Iron Mask. We're 1.9 seconds behind him. We're about 3 seconds on the exit to turn 16. And then heading up towards turn 23, breaking the 100 metre board. Oh, of course, heading down the hill towards the final corner. We're in that slipstream range, so he's dropped off masses and masses of time there. Frithie goes in, he was on soft tyres, and actually Iron Mask goes in on soft tyres as well. That was probably his 4th lap on the soft tyres, and you can see just how quick the drop off is. We just get ahead of that car there. That would have been quite a significant accident if we managed to collect that car on the way past the pit exit. So this is what we're talking about. We saw how quickly that Iron Mask dropped off towards the end of that previous lap on the 4th lap of soft, so that's why I've decided to go for 3 lap stints on soft. And then you can also use, because you have to do 2 laps on soft and then 1 on the medium, you can do 3 laps each, which means, in addition to being on those soft tyres for an extra stint, you only have to spend 1 lap on your hard tyres. So at this point here, I was kind of deciding what should I do in regards to tyres, because I can go on my next pit stop, which will be on the end of the next lap, end of lap 6. I can either go into my second soft stint, do another 3 laps on soft, or do my hard stint, get that out of the way. And it's going to be interesting to see, and I think what decides it for me is where the other cars are when it comes to the end of lap 6. We're going to keep an eye on that as well. But you see throughout the course, the middle sector here, we are actually catching up time towards Red Mist as well. So I think it's coming back to me. I think Red Mist started on soft tyres and is now on medium tyres, which is why we are catching up quite quickly here. But through this flying downhill section, I have all that dirty air coming off Red Mist's car, so that means we're not going to be gaining through there. You see we actually extend that gap to about 1.3 on the exit of the corner before the bridge. But as long as you can remain in the slipstream down that massive straight, we are going to be getting quite close, especially with this high downforce setup, which everyone is probably going to be running, because your car is not competitive without all that downforce of the circuit like this. Yellow flag as we head through turn 15. We're going to see what reveals itself around the corner. The leader has actually lost a lot of time there. You see the gap to the leader has dropped down to about 4.5 seconds now. It was about 8 seconds as we went across the bridge as well. Firmly in the slipstream of Red Mist, in turn in the slipstream of Blitz, which is why we're not quite able to get that overtake done on the entry to turn 15, or turn 16 rather. But you see, Blitz gets a snap moment right through the apex of turn 17. We run into the back of Red Mist, going around the outside. We go up the inside of Blitz as well. So Blitz has lost first position, gone down to 4th within the course of about 2/3 of a lap here, and Red Mist is up into 2nd. I'm up into 3rd, we're 4.5 seconds once again behind the leader, who's currently GDT C328, and we're going to see who comes in for their pit stops now. Heading onto the main straight of lap 5, Red Mist stays out, so I assume Red Mist is now going on to her 3rd lap on her 2nd stint on the tyres here. I, of course, am also on my 3rd lap of my 2nd stint as well, but I think Red Mist is on the softer tyre, is on the harder tyre at this point rather. I think she did start on mediums, as we've said. Into the slipstream, heading down towards turn 3. You see how quickly this car accelerates, 300 kilometers an hour, looking down the inside, just up back into the slipstream again, don't quite go for the move at that point there. So we're just putting the pressure on now, so this car, notoriously hard to control, so when you've got, someone right up your backside, it adds a little bit of extra pressure, and that can be all it takes to just lose control of your car. So that's kind of what we're doing to Red Mist here. Of course, no contact, it's just, that the pressure of having a car so close behind. but unfortunately we are in that dirty air, so it's going to be difficult for us to try and keep a good pace, try and keep this close, especially through the flowing corners of turn 9, 11, and then onto the bridge is where we'll gain eventually. Heading through here, nice and slow on the apex there, a little bit of a wiggle on the exit. Red Mist gets a lovely exit out of that corner and then braking into turn 10. This is the flying section. We're going to struggle through here, although Red Mist gets a little bit of oversteer on the exit there, and it's really hard to catch in this car with all the downforce. Heading down here, see we're on the brakes really early, and then we're, quite a slow apex speed as well, but we are onto another straight at this point here, which means the dirty air now turns into an advantage into slipstream, but we are going to have to be careful with braking because, in the slipstream you're carrying more speed, you have to brake earlier. Absolutely massive kick of oversteer as we exit the corner. Down before turn 15 here, Red Mist is out wide. Coming through turn 15, we're narrow on the exit, which leads to a similar run down the straight actually. So Red Mist was able to get the slingshot from the outside. I had the speed from the inside. But unfortunately, Red Mist doesn't have slipstream this time. We do get that move past all that slipstream. Pushing that air out of the way really allows this car to reach absolutely incredible top speeds down the straight there. But of course, now that we've gotten ahead of Red Mist, it's very important for this last section of the circuit to be in clear air, because we can take these corners flat out or close to flat out. We don't want to be pushing the car to the point where we're going to crash on these worn tyres. As you see, we're able to hook up these corners a lot nicer in the clear air as well. We're flat out through there almost. Almost flat out. Pretty much flat out. And then, yeah, nice and smooth through here. A little bit on the marbles coming through turn 23, but it's not to worry. Have a look at the gap to the leader. GDT, 3.5 seconds behind him at this point here. So we've caught up a second, but this is the third lap on these tyres. We're going in for the stop. I'm going to put on hard tyres because I was catching up to GDC. I want to be able to do that at the end of the race when it matters. So the hard tyres, I'm going to get that out of the way. I don't want to be stuck on those hard tyres at the end of the race where potentially I could catch GDT. So we're going to get that out of the way here. I had done zero practice on hard tyres here as well, so essentially hard tyres, you just drive on it like they're really, really worn soft tyres, so we can kind of deal with that. I suppose you just have to brake slightly earlier, you're going to be slower on the apex, and the car is going to wheel spin a lot more on the exit because the tyres don't have the grip, especially when they're cold, straight out of the box. But you see through there, just trying to get onto the power, and the car just wants to swing over to the right hand side and then spear itself into the barrier, which of course is not ideal, not the most best thing that could happen in the middle of a race, crashing. Every time someone's crashed in a race, they haven't gained an advantage. So yeah, we're not gonna be doing that. But the tyres are starting to come up to temperature at this point here, so we can kind of lean on them a little bit more. We're not going to be carrying as much speed at any point on this stint as we are on the softs, but as long as you can push the tyres, because you're only doing one lap, so you can push these tyres really hard, which is what I did here. Get the most out of the tyres as possible for that one lap. The car was still wheel spinning at about 200 kilometers an hour heading down that hill. Absolutely ridiculous. So it's quite clear why we only want to spend one lap on these tyres here. GDT, 10.7 seconds up the road. We have one more stop to do. I'm not sure where he is at with his stops at the moment. I have lost track of what tyre everyone's on and what pit stops everyone's going for. But I'll have Frithy behind. He's going to be in the slipstream down the straight, so we're going to actually have to be quite careful with that as well. As long as you get a good exit here, which we do get actually. Frithy is in the slipstream 1.2 seconds behind as we reach up towards that top speed of about 330 kilometers an hour on its own. We're about halfway down the straight now. Frithy's only caught up 0.3 of a second. It's quite clear to me we're going to be able to keep this position towards the end of the straight as we head up a little bit of the hill into the braking zone for turn 16, and then nice and gentle on the power through here. You see about half throttle until we are properly exited that corner, and then we're heading through the fast flowing downforce section. So Frithy's going to drop off again. He was about 0.8 on the exit of turn 16. It extends out to about 1.1 already, and remember we're on the hard tyre as well. Frithy might be on hard tyres as well, but I don't know. You see just how quickly he's dropped off. 1.3 seconds now as we head up to turn 23, soon to be 1.4 seconds behind. GDT goes in for a stop. He was on medium tyres, and we were actually 10 seconds behind him. Remember, we were 10.5 about halfway through the lap, so we caught up about half a tenth. Through that flying section, his medium tyres clearly wearing out. So we're going to put on our last set of soft tyres. We're going to fill up to the diamond. So, and you know, little quick note, you only want to fill up once in a race as well, because the animation for filling up, you lose 3 seconds in addition to any fuel you put in. So if you've got to fill up 10% in the race, you only want to fill up once, because you only want to lose 3 seconds once. You don't want to lose it twice for each part of the fuel you put in. So that's why we left it all the way to the end. And then we also don't want to carry the weight of the fuel like we discussed earlier. Final stint, soft tyres, clear air. We're 9 seconds behind GDT at this point. We've got Frithy up in first position, 10.4 seconds ahead of us, and the gap between myself and GDT is coming down quite quickly, 7.6 seconds at this point here. My goodness, that is absolutely rapid gaining. Let's see if we can actually get this overtake done within the lap. 7.1 as we exit turn 6 here. The soft tyres coming up to temperature beautifully. I'm on a minimal amount of fuel, I'm minimising the fuel I'm carrying around. Let's see if we can set about catching GDT. I assume GDT at this point is on the hard tyre. The time drop off here is just absolutely immense. That was half a second in one corner. My goodness. Coming into the flying fast downhill section, just climb the curb a little bit. We don't want to be doing that, but it's not to worry. Still 6.4 seconds behind GDT at this point. And then Frithy, we've caught up about 1.4 seconds. Actually even more now. It's the gap is changing quicker than I can commentate on it. 8.5 seconds to Frithy now, 5.6 to GDT. It's quite clear that I am racy on these tyres here. These soft tyres have really come to life at the end of the race. I'm in the groove. I've done 8 laps. I've done a previous race. I did about 3 hours of practice before, and you can see it really all comes down to this yellow flag on the exit of turn 15. That means only one thing. One of the leaders has absolutely binned it, and that is correct. Frithy has binned it, 4.8 seconds behind GDT at this point. Frithy drops in the gap between us, 2.5. He's losing time all the way down the straight. You can see that gap between myself and Frithy absolutely dropping like a stone here at this point, breaking into turn 16. We are going to have the dirty air through here, but I think Frithy, he must be, he's struggling. I can tell that he's struggling. He's lost a lot of time in this lap, thanks to a mistake, but also I think he's struggling on this with this combination a little bit. This car is extremely difficult to drive as well. So heading through the last few flat out Acer section of the lap now, we're going to be having a look at who goes in for stops, because I think people are still yet to stop at this point here, and we are catching up to Frithy quite quickly. So regardless of whether he actually stops or not, we are going to be getting past on this lap here. He actually pulled into the pit lane. He was on medium tyres, probably very, very worn medium tyres. He goes in. Let's keep an eye on Frithy's little icon there and see what tyres he changes to for the last part of the lap, just for my own personal interest. It's going to be interesting to see hard tyres for the final 2 laps. Yeah, Frithy not quite getting the strategy correct, but this leaves myself, GDT, massively gaining on GDT. We've got 2 laps to go. We've got about 6 minutes, or about five or so minutes of racing. There's GDT just around the corner as we go through turn 3 now, getting onto the power nice and gently. Just let the car lay down the power. 3.1 seconds behind GDT at this point here. We're gaining very quickly, and this is looking to be an absolute nail-biter finish at this point here. As long as we can keep the car under control, as long as we can just not get thrown off by the dirty air or the tyre wear, we're on for a good result here. Half a second up on my lap. This is going to be a purple lap at this point here. You see, we actually do have the fastest lap at the moment, a 2:48.3, which is quite slow race pace in the grand scheme of it compared to someone like Cody Lutkowski. He put in a 2:41 fastest lap in the top 16. But we'll come back to the race now, getting into that slipstream range as we head down the hill towards the final fast part of the lap. So the downforce sections are done. Heading onto the straight, this is the power section now, onto the power in 3rd gear, letting the car just wheel spin, let it do its thing, get the power down into that slipstream of GDT. Of course, he's the leader, doesn't have anyone in front of him. He's going to be vulnerable, especially coming down this straight here. See how slow he was through the apex there. We caught up absolutely massively, 2/10 behind GDT now. We've caught up 4 seconds in half a lap. How good is that? We are bloody quick here. Heading onto the back straight. for the second to last time in GDT Slipstream, it's going to be quite a convincing outright overtake at this point here as we lunge towards the inside into the braking zone almost shortly, side by side with GDT at this point here, but we're on the inside. He just drops in behind. He brakes slightly early, actually, probably going for the cutback tactic in case I went deep, but I had it all under control at this point here. He's in the dirty air for the final sector, so he's going to drop off massively as these soft tyres have really lit on fire at this point here. This car feels absolutely amazing at this point in the race here. 2 seconds up on a 48.3. It's going to be interesting to see how fast this lap really is because, you know, it felt quick as we head through the second to last corner now. Apex absolutely beautifully, gently onto the power. Final lap to go, so as long as we can't bin it, it's going to be a victory. How good. A little bit of a wiggle on the exit there. He has dropped off 2 seconds in about 2 sectors worth of the track here, and then we've set a 2:46.2, nearly 2.1 seconds quicker than our previous fastest lap. We're on fire at this point here, braking just after the 150 metre board on these worn tyres here. Slide a little bit deep there, but don't quite touch the wall. You see how much wheel spin we get there. The tyre graphic on the bottom left of your screen absolutely lit up there. 2.3 seconds ahead of GDT at this point. It was at this point in the race where I kind of thought, it's disappointing I didn't get into the top 16, you know, and don't have enough points for it because, you know, this felt absolutely amazing at this point here. I mean, the highest split, apart from top 16, I'm racing some really quick people, some people that do race in top split frequently, but, you know, not quite into that top 16, obviously, because they would be there right now. 3.1 seconds ahead of GDT at this point, but you can see from that split time there, 7 tenths down, so the tyre wear is beginning to sort of take over here. We just missed that apex slightly, and the car still dialed in. I still felt really good. Obviously, GDT, you know, this is the importance of strategy. He picked the wrong strategy. So it was quite clear to me that being on the soft tyres at the end of the race is what you really want to do. You want to be able to attack, and that's what we've been able to do here, especially in a car like this. All that downforce, you want that extra grip from the tyres at the end of the race. You want those soft tyres on the lightest fuel load possible, which is, of course, the last lap. The gap is climbing up to nearly 5 seconds. There it is, 5 seconds at this point here. Wow, yeah, the adrenaline was pumping at this point here. But, you know, let's take a moment and talk about just FIA in general. I only started it this year, and I'm already, like, competing in the second highest split, 6 seconds in the lead. It's just absolutely amazing to think that, you know, FIA Nations and manufacturers is something that I never really wanted to compete in because I thought it was, well, you know, I know it is, but I think I was just scared of being so competitive and that I would just be getting left behind. But I think the wheel has been a good choice for me at the moment. And actually, come back to that, just have a look at the section through here, as we're going to see a little bit of a moment from me here, heading through this corner here, and then trying to get onto the power up the hill. Bit of oversteer through there, snap to the left. That was so close to losing it, and that was actually really stupid of me. You don't want to be pushing the car to the limits on the last sector of the last lap when you've got a 7-second advantage. But yeah, I can, you know, thanks to the wheel, and, you know, I just put in the practice for this one, and it's led me to an absolutely blistering result of a first position. Get in there, Lewis. Valtteri, this is James. Great drive. And all I can say is, how good. Pretty good, if you ask me. Ayrton Senna would be proud. I've brought his Formula 1, 1980s Formula 1 car up to its former glory in the modern days of sim racing and Gran Turismo sport. But look at that, 6.4 seconds in the end. We absolutely ran away with it. We had a fastest lap as well. And I really think, you know, think back to qualifying where I was 6 tenths up on my time, and then I absolutely binned it. Decided that would be a good idea. But let's stay in the moment. Have a look at the amount of points we get here as we pull up to the victory lane here. 239 for Australia. What a drive. I would say that's probably one of my finest drives, and what a combination to do it on, and what a note to leave the video on. Surely this one's worth a like, so please hit that like button and do subscribe if you would like to, you know, follow me with these races on this channel. And to those of you still watching, I personally thank you for making it to the end. big one, but I think showing that whole race was absolutely worth it. But that's going to be the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.